Good afternoon. This is Bob Passy again with another episode of Democracy Rising America. And this one I might call Focus, Focus, Focus. Um, we, if you think about it, we all know these things. We have major human problems. We certainly have war all over the place. And that is fueled by a lot of it by the United States selling weapons, or being a part of the wars, and of course, part of the reason they're popular is because there's so much money to be made. It's both destroying things that have to be replaced and providing things for the military, and all of the concomitant income streams that come out of war and misery. But we also have problems of environmental change, the planet getting hotter, creating all kinds of problems in terms of starvation, in terms of the glaciers melting and what that means for water in the future. We have an economic system that has turned out to be an incredibly destructive, creating an immense gulf between those who have and those who do not have. And we have a system that seems to be thinking that it's okay to destroy life in order to turn it into products and profit, and leaving a denuded world behind, with the kind of corporate mentality and the neoliberal economics of unfettered free market capitalism, and the global trade that goes along with that has been so destructive. That's only to mention a few things. Well, we all know those are real issues. Not only that, but the shift that's beginning to happen with more and more of the power going to sort of authoritarian governments, including the trend in the United States at this point. And sometimes those authoritarian governments are hiding under the auspices of neoliberal economics that look like democracy, but really are run by the economic elite. And not to mention the fact that we have in this country, we have the 1% making the decisions for the 99%. Democracy is really under siege all over. So we have all of those issues, and what are we paying attention to? We are reliving the 2016 election yet. We're trying to get stuff on Trump. Who said what, and when did he know, and how should we get him, and this whole Russia thing. I'm not saying that they're not issues that might be helpful to resolve, but they're not the issues. While we're glued to our TVs watching all of these things, we are not focused on the real issues, the real human issues, the issues that will determine what happens with human life and the human spirit, and what happens with democracy. If we don't solve those, we're not going to get very far. In the meantime, we are kind of, the longer this goes on, the more it becomes normalized, and the more we begin to say, well, I guess that's just the way things are. And then we get into the same old, the discussion, the political discussions, and the back and forth, and nothing really happening. And we think that that's the only way things can be done. Well, we know different. We know different because we have seen it in our lifetimes, or certainly shortly before some of your lifetimes, that you don't change anything from within the system. The established system is established to prevent change. And so if you're trying to work within the system, you have all the whole labyrinth, and you spend more time trying to overcome the barriers they put in your way than actually accomplishing anything. And when you do accomplish something, it's minor. Much better to take your energy and put it into a citizens movement. The citizens movement is not a new thing. Well, we had a big citizens movement called the Civil War that finally made us confront the issues of slavery. We had a civil rights movement. We had a women's movement, not just to mention a few. In other words, the people rose up and said, this is not right, and we have to make the change, and the system eventually has to respond, because the system can't work without the support of the people. So we need to begin to focus again, focus on the real issues, and to work outside the system. There are people out there all over. Well, you know some of them, but they're just scattered and they don't get much publicity. But they're working on all kinds of things. They're working on new energy that will solve our problems. We have the answers, we just refuse to use them. They're working on single-payer health care. They're working on environmental changes. They're working on more effective uses of soil. They're working on all kinds of things, and you all know some of those people. And part of it is to get everything together into one movement, and not to think that somehow we're doing something helpful by paying attention to the debates about Comey and what he said, and Trump insisting that it was something else, and how are we going to get Russia to admit that they were hacking when maybe they didn't. I don't know. We're never going to get, they're never going to say, oh yes, we did that and we admit it now and shame on us. That's never going to happen. And to never talk to Russia again until they admit that, it's just ridiculous. And so, I mean, we're spinning our wheels, but we're all sort of glued to the TV watching this stuff as though it's going to make any difference, as though we're carrying on some sort of important citizen work by being aware of all these little bits and pieces of information. We are going to have no voice in how this all comes out, and it's not going to come out for months, if not years, if ever. So it's just a matter of keeping us involved in those unimportant things while we're ignoring all the important things. And all the important things are going to keep going the direction they're going as long as we're not paying attention. So we have to find a way. We know the ways. We have to be willing to pick ourselves up from in front of that stupid TV and go and get involved in people who are actually making changes, who are working on a citizens movement to change the basic systems that run this country and take us back to a democracy again, take us back to a country where ordinary people can have decent lives, and help the world move back in a more sustainable direction. We have to solve the problem of environmental change. It's not going to go away. We can't negotiate it away. We can't negotiate any of these things away. We're just going to have to confront them and say, no, we're going to choose a different direction. So we have to stop being distracted by all of this ridiculousness that we have no voice in anyway. It's all you're not going to make any difference. You can wring your hands and shake your head and talk to your friends about how horrible it is or make judgments about it. It is not going to make any difference. What this is decided about Trump, what is decided about Comey, what is decided about Russia is not going to be something you're going to have a voice in. So stop spending your time that way. Spend your time thinking and doing something about how to change the direction of this country by getting involved in whatever way you can in a citizens movement. Anyway, that's some thoughts for the day from Bob Passy at Democracy Rising America. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.